Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Reality Bites, the show where we talk about all of the greatest hits that reality TV shows have to offer. I'm your host, Jake Schaff. Let's get started. Alright, guys. Survivor Winners at War, Episode 3 Out for Blood. I was really under the impression that this was just going to be a normal episode. I mean, nothing really that crazy was happening this time. It seemed like a pretty straightforward vote. And then all of a sudden, at elimination, things take a complete left turn. And somebody that I really, really liked ended up going home. And I think I said this in the first episode, how big players are going to go home early, and we have to be okay with that. But this was one person who I never expected to go home early, who I thought was a lock for at least the merge, and the one person I think out of everyone in the tribe that I least wanted to see go home. Like, this was the first elimination that I think really, really hurt. And I'm happy that Edge of Extinction is in play, because if it wasn't, then I think I'd really be rioting. But I'm really hoping that this person can pull it out at the Edge of Extinction later down the line. But we'll get to that in a little bit. First, let's talk about all the other moments throughout the episode and talk about what the contestants did and whether or not I think they made the right decision or the wrong decision. So let's start with the Sele tribe. After the last elimination, when Danny went home, it seemed like the old school alliance was completely out in the open and completely on display. Rob, Parvati, and Ethan. And as a result of that, you had all of the other people on the tribe, the new school alliance, Ben, Michelle, Jeremy, Adam, and Denise. All of them were pretty dead set on working together, and all of them were pretty dead set on getting rid of Parvati first, feeling as though she was the most dangerous of the three of them. It seemed like nobody was targeting Ethan at the moment, and everyone seems afraid to target Rob because they think that would rock the boat a bit too much. So instead of just targeting Rob, they're thinking the better move is to merely weaken him. I'll get to that in a little bit, but if everyone had just stuck to the plan and stuck to the agreement to go after Parvati, we wouldn't be in this situation at the end of the episode. But somebody had to get a little greedy, and that person was Adam. Now, I said this before, I really, really like Adam. He's one of my favorite winners. Did he play the greatest game out of all of the winners here? No. But I really liked him because he embodies this true super fan. He's somebody you really wanted to root for. And he's somebody that I did not want to go home early. So, as we know, Denise found the immunity idol last episode, and she gave half of it to Adam. But apparently, Adam gave his half back to Denise, saying, "It's your idol, you use it." And it's stupid. I guess it hadn't occurred to me that you could give the half of the idol back. I kind of thought that they had to keep the half, and that it had to be relied on both people to use it. But that totally makes sense to give the half of the idol back. I don't know if Adam was smart in doing that, because at least he has some sort of safety with a half of an idol, and Denise would feel inclined to use her half. Otherwise, that half goes home. It sounds confusing, but trust me, but bottom line is, at least Adam would have access to an idol in some way. So giving that power up to Denise, I mean, I can understand why he did it. He wants to strengthen his bond with Denise, but I don't know. This may not be a smart. This may be the first move Adam made this episode that I'm not entirely fond of, and I don't think was a good move. Now let's get to the second move that he made that was pretty stupid. So Adam, he was saying in confessional that not only did he want to target the big dogs, he wanted to preserve his relationships with the big dogs. So we see him talking to Ethan, and he's basically telling him, "Listen, Ethan, I want to try and target your closest ally, Parvati. Now, that doesn't mean I want to target you, but this is what I'm doing. I just want to make sure we're good." And of course, Ethan's telling him, "Yeah, of course we're fine." But of course, Ethan reacts in confessional like probably any other normal person would. And Adam, I don't know what you're doing, pal. You don't go to the enemy, tell them you're targeting their ally, and expect everything to work out in your favor. I mean, I can understand what you're trying to accomplish, but it's not a good move. And if anything, that's just gonna make them realize that you're targeting them, and that's just gonna put the target on your back. So Adam, he's not really handling this situation well, and I think part of the reason is because he's playing. He grew up watching Survivor. He's watched these people play this game, and he may be dealing with a situation of maybe he's starstruck. He's playing with his heroes, and he's so afraid of pissing any of them off that it's causing him to make questionable moves, and it's causing him to go out of his way to make everybody happy, when in Survivor you can't really do that. You're gonna piss somebody off, and you have to be okay with that. Anyway, Adam was already setting himself up for failure, but I'll get back to Adam in a little bit. Now I want to take things over to the edge of extinction. And as of right now, or as of the start of the episode, we have 3 women inhabiting the island and no men so far. So everyone seems to be chilling on the island. They're catching fish. They're adapting to edge of extinction life, however you want to call it. And then they get a brand new advantage, which revolves around them trying to solve a combination lock. And it was a close battle between all 3 of the girls. It really seemed like at a certain point, each one of them had figured out the combination lock. And I really wasn't sure who was going to get it. Like, at first I thought it was going to be Amber, then I thought Danny, and then Natalie all of a sudden noticed the shells that came with the messages, which I never would have thought of. And thankfully, she managed to sneak by Amber and Danny and solve the combination seemingly without them realizing. So now Natalie has accomplished 2 feats at Edge of Extinction, and with this new advantage, she could now be in the lead with the most fire tokens out of anybody in the game. So if Natalie comes back into the game, and especially if she keeps winning these challenges, she is going to become a major force to be reckoned with. I still don't know if we're actually going to see more fire tokens in the future. I'm starting to think maybe not, because I feel like we would have seen something by now that would have offered up more fire tokens for a contestant. And I think that may make things... I mean, it'll make things a little more interesting regarding the currency and regarding if somebody actually does get to 4 or 5 fire tokens in the game. And now I'm starting to see how that can be accomplished with Natalie constantly winning these challenges. And if she comes back into the game, she's going to become a major threat. So she finds the advantage, which allows a contestant to steal a vote from another contestant and use it as their own. And when she found this, I wasn't sure who she was going to give it to. I didn't think Jeremy, because she had just given him the free pass from Tribal Council power last episode. And, I mean, Jeremy does have 1 more fire token, but I don't think she wants to run Jeremy dry. So instead, Natalie decides to do a complete 180 and give this to somebody on the Dakal tribe, and she wills this to Sarah. And I think maybe the reason is, again, trying to build some sort of relationship with somebody on the other tribe, and trying to maintain some sort of ground once she makes it back into the game, if she makes it back into the game. So I'll talk about Sarah in a little bit, but first let's go over to the Dakal tribe and talk about a few of the other key moments there, which there aren't really a lot, because seemingly these last couple episodes, the Dakal tribe has been a lot more laid back. It seems like every time you go over to the Sele camp, they're constantly in game mode. They're constantly planning who's the next to be eliminated or who's working with who. Like, it's constantly in game mode. But on the Dakal tribe, you haven't really seen much gameplay since the first episode. It's a lot more laid back over there. I mean, they haven't had to go to Tribal Council in a long time. And they're just chilling. There were really only two moments that are worth noting from the Dakal tribe before the whole advantage situation. The first one being the shark. Sandra mentioned that this is her fifth time, technically fourth time playing Survivor, since last time she wasn't a contestant. This is her fourth time playing Survivor, but it's also her final time playing Survivor, and she wants to prove to her tribe that she can be useful around camp. So we see her working with everybody else in the tribe to try to figure out like a fishing net situation, trying to put out bait, trying to make sure they get themselves some food, and it works. And the next morning, they find themselves with a little shark, which is incredible. You don't really see sharks too often on Survivor. And Tony grabs the shark, and then the shark just starts going apeshit in his arm, and Tony reacts probably how you would expect Tony to react. And Tony, I'm sorry, but the shark did not try to bite your arm off. So just calm down. Other than the whole shark situation, we also caught a quick glimpse over at Tyson, who's been pretty quiet since the first episode. We see him trying to build more relationships with other people and trying to make sure that Sandra is top priority over everyone else on the tribe in terms of who should be targeted. Which, of course, that's an easy decision to go after Sandra. We see Tyson once again trying to work with the free agents, proving that, again, they are still in their power position of having everybody come to them and making sure that they're still in control. And Tyson brought up a lot of good points in terms of getting rid of Sandra. Obviously, the obvious points of her having $2 million. So we're still going to have to wait and see if the free agents are going to be deciding to work with Sandra, Sarah, and Tony, or with Tyson and Kim. And I have a feeling that next episode we're finally going to be getting a decision on that. I'd have more to talk about with them, but again, they've been pretty quiet since the first episode, so hopefully next episode we'll have a little more on the whole situation. But now back to Sarah and the advantage. So she finds the note in her bag about being willed this advantage, but there's a catch. She can't just get the advantage right away. She has to sneak into the Sele camp and steal it from their camp. And steal it from another contestant's torch. Which means she has to go overnight, make sure that she isn't seen, and leave completely unscathed with the advantage. So, seeing as though how this is an undercover mission, she relies on her Copsaurus partner Tony to help her out, which is amazing. I don't know what it was, but that whole scene was just really, really cool to see Sarah and Tony actually working together. Huge contrast from Cagayan, where they were basically at each other's throats once the merge started. So Tony tries to help out Sarah as best as he can. He tries to cover her face with some ash, which made it a little ironic that the episode aired on Ash Wednesday, but I don't know, just leave that. I'm just going to leave that there. So Sarah tries to get camouflage as best as she can, and then she takes the boat ride over to Sele. And I thought Vince's task of sneaking into another camp was crazy, but this was probably even more nerve-wracking. It was completely pitch black. Sarah couldn't see anything. It seemed like people were still somewhat awake. Like, I thought I saw Ethan awake at some points. I saw Ben awake. It seemed like Ben heard something. I almost thought he was going to turn around. And I was really starting to think that Sarah wasn't going to be able to pull this off. But thankfully, she did, and she got the advantage. So this is now the second time Sarah has a steal a vote advantage. And the last time, she was able to use it correctly. Hopefully, she can do that again. And I'm really hoping still that this Copsaurus alliance can go the distance and really work well in the future. So now let's go over to the immunity challenge real quick. And it was another really, really close battle. Once again, I noticed Sandra sitting out of the challenge, which I thought was a little funny. It's almost like the queen having the servants do the battle for her as she just sits on her throne. But it was nerve-wracking. I was still rooting for Sele to win because I wanted Dakal to have more screen time, and I wanted them just to go to Tribal Council because I just rather that tribe go because I have a few more favorites on the Sele tribe. And This was one of the closest challenges I've seen in a really long time, but at the last second, Dakal solved the puzzle first, and they walked away with the win again. So Sele went back to camp, and it seemed like the plan was still solid for them to go after Parvati. But of course, things can never stay solid for very long. So Sele returns to camp, and it seems like there's a good hour that they're all just sitting around camp waiting for anyone to make the first move. It's almost like they're in a Western movie and they're all standing at opposite ends of the town, all with their hands on their guns, waiting for the first person to reach for their gun and fire a bullet. Finally, Ben and Jeremy are the first ones to get up, and again, they're reconvening with everyone, making sure that the plan is still solid. And it was still early in the episode, so I had a feeling that this plan was not going to be one that was going to be accomplished smoothly. And again, I was right. Let's go back to Adam for a second. As I said before, Adam was trying to make sure that he preserved relationships with everybody on his tribe and everyone that he was not targeting at the moment. So we already saw him talk to Ethan. Already a bad idea. I didn't think he would do this, but he ended up making a worse move and went straight to Boston Rob. So Adam tells Boston Rob that he's planning on getting rid of Parvati, but is trying to tell Rob that he still has his back in the future and still wants to work with him. Adam, you're a super fan. You've watched how Rob, Parvati, all of these people have played this game. So I had a feeling that you would at least know better and not assume that Rob would instantly have your side. Again, I understand what he's trying to do, but he's not making the right decision. Obviously, Rob does not like this idea of getting rid of Parvati and tries to do everything he can to stop it. So then he starts talking to all of the other new school players and tells them that Adam told him everything, which of course has the new school players thinking that Adam is playing both sides and has become very untrustworthy, which I don't blame them at all. So now I'm starting to realize that Adam is probably going to be the one going home tonight from Sele, which again I wasn't super thrilled about, but I thought it made the most sense. I was prepared for it, and I was ready for it to happen. Then we see Michelle and Jeremy talking a bit more. They're still weighing their options. They're still thinking maybe we could at least take this shot to weaken Rob. I mean, yes, Adam's untrustworthy, but we have a golden opportunity to get rid of a giant player in Parvati. And then Michelle also mentions Ethan for a quick moment, thinking Ethan would be the most likely person to get rid of from the old school alliance because that would rock the boat the least. But it was such a fleeting discussion that I didn't really think Ethan was in that much danger. So everyone goes to tribal council, and it still seems up in the air between Adam and Parvati. But my gut was telling me that Adam had completely dug his own grave and was most likely going to be going home. So tribal council starts, and there doesn't really seem to be that much activity other than they're still heavily focusing on Adam. And Rob's once again using his classic tactic of throwing people's words back at them, as Adam briefly mentions the bigger players' resumes, and Rob speaks to Adam saying like, "Oh, so if we have the bigger resumes, does that mean we're the bigger targets?" Rob's really good at throwing people's words right back at them, and this again furthers my point and my suggestion that Adam is most likely going to be going home. So the votes are being cast, the votes are being read, and I'm starting to see more votes for Adam. But then in the back of my head, something was telling me that something wasn't right. Like, I don't know what it was, but everything was just seeming a bit too easy. And I had a feeling that all of a sudden I was going to see another vote for Parvati, and then things were totally going to be shifting, and Parvati was going to go home. But Parvati hadn't really gotten a ton of screen time this episode, so I didn't think that was going to happen either. Then I saw Ethan's name, and my heart sank. Guys, I'm not kidding when I say that that I almost started crying when Ethan was sent home. I mean, I just felt so bad for the guy. I was really excited to see Ethan play this game again. I thought if anyone deserved a second chance at this, or a third chance, or deserved to be on this season, it was him, especially after all he had gone through with cancer, and plus it was just exciting to see him play because I didn't start watching Survivor until after Ethan had played All Stars. So I mean, even though I had seen Africa and All Stars, I never got to watch Ethan play this game like live. Oh my god, I I really did not expect Ethan to be sent home this tribal council, and it seemed like Michelle's argument for Ethan was a bit more stronger than I had originally thought, and that they were targeting Ethan solely because he was working with Boston Rob and they were trying to weaken him. You know, I have an idea. If maybe instead of trying to target people to weaken Boston Rob, maybe you could actually target Boston Rob. I understand that you don't want to rock the boat, but this is Winners at War and you have to make big moves. If you keep beating around the bush and keep letting Boston Rob skate by, he's just going to get deeper and deeper into the game, and by the time you do decide to target him, it's going to be too late. He'll have an idol, or he'll have an advantage, or something, and you're screwed. So, even aside from my personal feelings of Ethan going home, I really don't think that the new school players made a smart decision tonight. I really don't. I think they could have gone with the easy decision and get rid of Adam. I think they could have really changed the tides of this game and gotten rid of Parvati, or even gone a complete left turn and voted out Rob himself. But Ethan, I don't think that's really going to help them that much. I mean, yes, it does decimate the old school alliance a little more, but he was sort of the most expendable member. You've left the two big dogs there, and I really think that's going to come back and bite Sele in the ass. So that's the end of that episode. I realize this is a lot shorter of an episode of Reality Bites, but again, this episode didn't really have a lot of giant jaw-dropping moments other than the surprise left turn at elimination. Ethan decided to will his token over to Parvati, so now Parvati will have two tokens. And next episode, it seems, like I said, it seems like the free agents may... Actually, I didn't even realize this until a little later, but I realized maybe the free agents are going to start to become found out. Because now we see all of the bigger players talking to each other saying, listen, they're going to be targeting the people who have prior connections. They're going to be targeting the people who have had more chances at this game than anyone else. So maybe something completely different is going to happen, and the Game Changers trio and Tyson and Kim, they'll team up and go after the free agents. I don't know yet, but they could be in trouble. And then over on Sele, Adam is in complete hot water, and he now may become one of the bigger targets on the tribe, given the fact that he was trying to work both sides of the fence. And not only that, I'm not 100% sure if his alliance with Denise is still going to be valid. Because, again, Adam was foolish and gave his half of the idol back to Denise, and now Denise knows that Adam was playing both sides, so I don't know if he can rely on her idol in the future. And then lastly, we caught a glimpse at the edge of Extinction, and it seems like somebody may require medical attention in some way. Maybe they're dealing with heat exhaustion, I'm not sure. Do I think it's going to result in a medevac? Honestly, I don't think so. I think maybe somebody's just getting nervous or getting really exhausted from being out there, and I really think they're going to be fine, but you never know. So that's going to do it today for Reality Bites. Once again, I'm your host, Jake Schaff. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you let me know what you thought of this episode in the comments below, and make sure you check out my other channel, 239MI. Thank you guys so much. I will see you next time.